Okay, there we go. Okay, so um, you're gonna just kind of mark the edge of your paper, and if you have, I always like if to work in standard sizes. So if you haven't yet and you have the ability to measure an 8 by 10, that would be great. Otherwise, you can just do what I'm doing, knowing that it's going to be approximately 8 by 10 because the paper is 8.5 by 11. So this is just an exercise to warm up our mind for perspective. So the clouds feel like they're going out over the ocean. So we're going to just draw a horizon line that's lower than halfway so that the sky is the prominent part of the painting.
May I ask a quick question?
Of course. I can't see you because I've spotlighted my hands, but I can hear you.
I left for a second. Are we doing it on the real paper or the other paper?
Yeah, just a scratch piece of paper for now because I want, and then you're going to have a choice of whether or not you want to do it before you paint, because some people will want to be very intellectual about this. Some people will want to be more intuitive, but I feel that just doing the exercise is going to put your awareness in this space. So we're going to do this pretty as an exercise to warm up. So we just drew the horizon line. And now we're going to take, we're just going to do like these sun rays out like this. So this is just a way to start thinking of perspective without getting too technical. Okay. And now we're going to, see mine's off a little bit, that's okay. And you can even do some coming out into the water. So that obviously this is the water and that's the sky. Just freehand, this is just an exercise to warm up. Now, we're going to do these placeholders for the clouds above, and they're going to get smaller as they go back. So I'll show you what I mean. So now we're going to draw a little sun here. Now, when we do the painting, I forgot, we already got started. I'm going to move this off to the side. You're going to have a choice to move it off to the side if you want. So up here, I want you just to draw some boxes, just placeholders of clouds. And it would be nice if they go, you see how this one's in front of this one? And it doesn't have to be, I'm doing like down, up, something very organic. And then I'm going to do some smaller boxes below. And then some long, thin ones down here. So yours may not look as, I've done this before, so my lines are really confident. It's okay if you do fewer boxes, that's fine too. Maybe I did a few too many, but now let's start at one corner. So what we're going to do, or we'll start with this one so you can see it. Following the lines that are closest to your box, you're going to darken this so that it appears like it's coming forward. So I don't have a line at this corner, but I know that it's between these two, so I'm doing a parallel. Now this one would be parallel to that. This one, the line goes right through, so it's like barely a line at all. The line is there, I have to angle it more. So just let your mind just start playing with this.
So are we drawing the lines adjacent to the boxes in terms of, I'm not sure the right terminology, but if there's a line, if there's not a line at the corner of my box, I'm just making it imaginary according to the other lines?
Yeah, so if it's between these two lines here, if you can see that, I'm just doing as close as I can parallel to this. So what this is kind of like, you can measure and do perspective lines and get it, and then we could spend like the whole hour like creating the perspective of each cloud. This is just a placeholder to start to feel that depth. If it doesn't make sense, this is kind of the thing about art. It's a combination of art and intuition and intellect. So just, even if your line's a little bit off, you'll probably get a couple of boxes that feel like they're going back in space, right? I hope. And if you're in doubt, make this dot here in the sun darker and let your line go towards that. That's the vantage. It's called vantage point. Here. So it kind of looks like computer generated in a way. Now I'm going to take my eraser and erase some of these lines so I can see what I'm doing, especially in the ones that go through the boxes. Oops. And now these are placeholders for clouds. So imagine now, now go back to your boxes and just start to make them into a cloud shape. I know this is weird, but it's just going to get your brain thinking about perspective. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not the painting, right? So the bottom of the cloud is going to be down here. This is this part of the cloud. You don't have to do this. I'll just show you. We're going to end up mixing our warm and cool color, and it's going to become gray. As you can see here, it's going to create the underside of the clouds. And make it feel like they're coming out towards you. And once you paint it, it's going to be imperfect. Otherwise, it will look like a computer did it. And that's the thing. We don't want this is a class in watercolor. So things are going to be free flowing. It's not going to look like computer generated art. All right. So, and this will all be soft lines. Now I'm going to take us off of Spotlight for a minute here. See how I can do this. Remove Spotlight. And I think I will pause the recording for a minute. This is the, I forget what it's called, vantage point. It's like there's a name for it. Well, the point that it's going, the disappearing point, I'll call it, I forget what it's called.
Horizon? Oh.
It's going towards this way. So there is here you can see, you're just going to follow that same, that's why there's going to be very little shadow under those. The shadow would be on the side.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Wendra?
Yeah.
My clouds are further apart than yours, so.
Pin this again. So you can see the water to create the sense of a horizontal, and mine's messy. I'm like exploring as I'm getting ready for class, but they're just, the light is not going to be as, how can I say? And what you really want to do is you can see that this gets wider and more contrasty in the front, and then these lines get smaller as they go to the back. So if you have something that you want to repeat to look like it's going like an orange, I don't have so much of that, you're going to make it bigger and wider in the front, and it's going to get tinier as it goes towards the back. It's more of just a brush stroke than a full shape, but you can do it on here if you want. So it would be as wide, so my line is here, it would be like in the water like that, and then it would get smaller. That would be about the perspective to get it to go all the way back to there.
7320211. Thanks.
Now, we're gonna start painting. I'm gonna pause this for. You're gonna give you a choice. I prefer to just have that in my memory and paint. Let me get a bigger piece.
Laura, turn off your volume because
Oh,
it's loud.
sorry. Thanks. It's so noisy.
So I recommend just keeping that sketch you did nearby, this one. And then starting on your watercolor paper, starting over on your watercolor paper. And the only thing we're going to draw the clouds without the boxes. So make your square where you know, just your memory of where you want to be within. And then the horizon line lower than the midline so that the sky is the prominent feature. And you want to make sure that your horizon, I just noticed mine was kind of sloping upwards, so. And
So are you just using half of that paper?
I am, I turned mine vertical really quick because I didn't have time to,
Okay.
ideally you want about an 8.5, I think. We know this is 8.5 by 11. So I just marked off approximately that because if I like it, I might want to stick it in a mat and then I know I have a standard size. But you can do any, it's totally up to you.
Okay.
So, and then you want to make sure you have enough water that you feel happy with, but you want the sky to be bigger than the water. Now, this might be a little difficult, but I'm going to switch. It's up to you again. Instead of putting the sun in the center, I'm going to put the sun off to the side. So we're just going to draw a little tiny sun that's, you know, about that big. And then for the clouds, we're going to look at our sketch and then we're just going to make some big loopy kind of, the ones at the top are going to be bigger. They're placeholders. I want to let the paint kind of dictate more than the sketch lines. And then just below those, I'm going to leave some, maybe a little space, but not too much. I'm going to do and then down along the horizon, some long, thinner. Now, like everything else with watercolor, when we paint, we're gonna save a lot of white because we can always add. So so you want to make sure for your palette of colors, we're going to work from light to dark. You want your yellow nearby and some orange. I'm going to work out of my messy palette. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to make sure, I'll give you a minute here to get your colors a little wet, at least your yellow. Oof. Get your yellow, your orange, and your light blue.
What kind of brush are we going to be using?
Start with your biggest brush because we're going to wet the whole sky.
So are we just using water on that?
Yeah, to start with. And if you have, I think most of you now have more than one brush. So have your, so I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to have these smaller ones nearby when I start adding the color, to drop the color in. So this is like a 12, mine's 12, depends on what brand you have, to 14. These are like a 6, 7, or 8. Using my smaller ones to mix up. Get some orange ready. And my colors don't need to be too watery because the paper is going to be watery. They just want to get them kind of wet. So here's our model that we're working from. So we're going to start with, we're going to wet the whole page, and then we're going to put yellow highlights on the clouds, on the top of the clouds where the sun's going through. We're going to leave some white in the center of the clouds. So we're not going to fill them completely. Then we're going to drop in a little bit of orange along the edges. And then we're going to come in with blue underneath the clouds to create that, those bottom parts.
Hey, I'm sorry if my keeps getting unmuted, but I'm hearing somebody has some noise in the background. I don't know who it is, some television and phone.
Could be me.
Okay.
My husband just
If
turned the
anybody,
TV
if anybody has, it went away. Okay. So I'm gonna start. Can somebody say something? I want to make sure I can still hear you guys.
All right.
Okay, good. Okay, so because I can't see gallery view anymore, just if you want me to slow down or speed up, say, wait a minute, I didn't catch that. Okay. So I'm going to start by just putting a sheen on the whole page, not a puddle. Oh, I also didn't. Oh, well. You can, if you want, I'm not going to put any water in the sun for now. You can put this, you can tape this to cardboard, but I didn't. So just putting a light sheen over the whole page. And then going into my water with my brush and getting just some of my yellow.
You want the sheen on the water part of the sunset too?
No, just above for now because it'll dry. And I'm gonna remember to leave the center of the clouds white, but also you want a paper towel nearby because you might be blotting. And I'm just gonna, oh, that's very orange. I want it more yellow. But I like that blur, I'm gonna leave it. Happy accident. So I'm gonna put some yellow, there we go. And this is where you just wanna breathe and relax and just a little bits of yellow along, it's leaving the center of the cloud white. Hopefully you have enough water. If not, add some more water. I need to add a little bit so that the yellow blurs. You want those soft edges. It's all about soft edges, you know? I'm gonna have to add some more water in mine. It's drying pretty quickly today. So I'm just gonna get us to orange and yellow and check in with you guys. And then we want to do the blue before it dries so it creates gray.
Are you doing orange now?
I'm still doing yellow. I'm still doing yellow. I did that mistake of orange, but I'm leaving it.
Okay.
Now, somebody mentioned they wanted to do purple, which is great. You can add purple at the end, but I wanted to create the gray through the orange and the blue mixing together. You know what? So you can see I have quite a bit of yellow. It's the lightest color and it's hard to add afterwards. It's easy to cover yellow once it dries. You don't want to cover it when it's wet because it'll create green. But I want the whole picture to have like a yellowy glow. So I'm being very liberal with my yellow. Okay. Now I'm going to just drop in a little bit of, so the orange, it's up to you how much orange you want to put in there for drama. Here's just a quick look at this one. I'm going to do a lot of orange along this, the base here where it kind of gets fiery. I'm going to end up putting some, like a low mountain of hills here on top of it. And some highlights of orange. Hopefully yours is wet enough that as you just tap the paper, and if you get any hard edges, just use your paper towel. Everybody, you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Didn't bother me, but because everybody else is so quiet. Okay. How's it going? Does anybody need me to wait before I do the blue? Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to mix up my ultramarine blue. I'm going to clean my brush, get it really clean, get some water in my ultramarine.
I'm still doing orange over here.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I'm going to mix up my turquoisey blue. Now, some of you already have this, your palette already set up, which is great. I know Devorah did before class. And you can go straight out of your. Okay, so now you don't want to. Okay, are you guys ready to? Do you have what 2 blues? A warm blue. I have 3.
So it looks like you basically have a little well of water with a little bit of blue tinting it. Is that?
Yeah, because my paper is going to be wet. You can put in more if you want. I'm just getting my brush really wet and then dropping that water into just by wiping the side of it. Now my page, I'm going to have to see, my page pretty much dried. So I think I'm going to use my big brush again. And I'm going to wet.
What about?
You want to, you can chat me if you have a question. Or Mickey, what were you asking?
I was asking if you could just spray it.
I could, you could, but when you spray, sometimes it creates white little dots on the paint that's already there. I'm going to use my large brush because I also want to control since it's starting to dry, and I'm going to just use my large brush and go in now. Looking at this, I'm going to go in under my clouds, kind of touch and make it wet just beneath the clouds, the shadow. So getting my big one wet, I'm coming in under the bottom of some of these, just re-wetting. My page is still wet, but not as wet as it was.
So is it, the shadows wouldn't be in a certain sense as centered towards the midline if we've got the sun over to the left now, right?
Right. And my shadows on these bottom ones are just going to be really soft, little thin lines. So I don't know if my orange is still wet enough. We'll see what's going to happen. But I'm going to come in with my ultramarine under the bottom here and just gently let it mix with my orange. Now my orange dried. I didn't work fast enough, so I'm going to go back into my orange. I'll use a different brush because I'm demoing, and I'm just going to put some more orange back in there. And they're going to mix and create like a grayish color. And to the degree that I can right now, I really don't want to show brush strokes. I really want this to float so it feels like a cloud. So if it's wet enough, like it looks like 3 dots there, but if I just spread it a tiny bit, the water is gonna just, you'll see, it'll take a few seconds, but it'll start to, you can spread it itself. You can add water to it. There, let the water spread it. And I want it to feel really organic. Oops. Okay, I accidentally went into my turquoise, so it's okay. So maybe I'll do more turquoisey over on this side. It's okay, it's all nature. So like Deborah said, I know my white spot is here. Going back to my ultramarine, I'm gonna have, so if I imagine the imaginary line, this would be my darkest spot. And then it would go off like that. Coming from here, my darkest spot would be over on this side. Coming out from there. So it should be super messy right now. And now my paper is buckling because I did not tape it to a piece of cardboard. So I'm just gonna lift it and I'm gonna play with it a little bit. This is what I like, this happening here. It's just creating its own. It's gonna spread this out a little bit. And then the bottom, these bottom ones are just gonna be very thin. And now I'm gonna wash my brush and go into my whatever your warmer blue is, turquoisey or like a sky blue. I might mix mine together and use the side of my brush. I'm gonna leave, yeah, I'm just gonna come in from the top. And I'll put some of this lighter blue in between the clouds here. I'm just being very open and free about it and not completely filling the paper yet. I'm gonna use my paper towel. My paper towel is my tool. I'm just gonna look and just make some decisions, see if there's anything that might be a little too bold I don't want to commit to, but I'm liking the whole organic feel of what's happening, softening a little bit of the edge. Could have a few hard edges are okay. It's kind of a weird thing here. Okay, so I'm gonna take a break here for a minute, check in with you all. Okay, so for the next step, at least in mine, let's see here. So I want to do this area above the water line, and I think I need to make my orange deeper. I can't see all of yours, but so you may already have a deeper orange. I'm going to deepen my orange. I want that kind of fiery orange on the horizon. So I'm going to wet it first so it's nice and blurry. And I'm going to go back in with, I'm going to float some orange. I'm going to have to do the island later because I want this to dry. I want the island to have a harder edge than the rest. I'm just deepening this. So then we're going to do this. I'm going to do the water. My plan here is to do the water and then go back to the finessing the sky and the land, and I want to do a little cloud formation in front of this sun here. So now we're going to do a mirror image of a sky, and the water is going to be a little bit darker. The background is going to be mostly ultramarine blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm not going to wet the page. I want to leave some dry brush. So I'm going to actually use my biggest brush. It's up to you if you use your biggest or your next to biggest. I got to get it nice and clean. So there was a little yellow I noticed. I'm taking it off so it doesn't look green. I'm drawing my brush a little bit. I'm going in right into the ultramarine blue. And I'm going to start from the front towards the back, I think, leaving some white areas in the front that are going to look like waves.
Is this on dry? No, not on wet?
That's right. I'm using dry. So I want it to feel different than the sky. I'm leaving, see this white line here? I'm leaving a white line along the back. And I'm trying to make my brush strokes in the front a little fatter and then a little thinner as they go back. And I'm leaving lots of white so I can add some reflected color. Oops, I forgot. Okay, so here's my sun. It's talking and I forgot to leave I want a lot of white here where the sun is reflecting on the water. I have to lift. You can see it's good. You get to see how while it was still wet, I was able to lift some. And I'll go back. And then as it comes closer, I'm going to make it a little bit deeper in color as well. Imagine that little edge that goes underneath the foam. I also am working dry at this point because when I put I'm going to put orange and yellow on the water. I don't want it to turn to green. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit and let you guys catch up to me if you haven't yet. Is this picture big for everybody still?
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Perfect.
It's weird
Perfect.
because I can't tell which one's spotlighted. Hopefully that one's still spotlighted for the recording. Okay, now I'm going to start adding some of the reflected orange and yellow into the water. And I'm going to start with so the ones that are above here are going to be down here. And the ones that are farther back are going to be closer to the horizon. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to find down here its mirror image. So if it's going like that, then down here, it would, if it's a frown, here it would be a smile. So I'm going to put a little bit of a smile into the water here and here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Water's moving and, you know,
Are you using the yellow or orange?
Sorry?
Are you,
Using yellow or orange?
I'm starting with yellow and then I'll add the orange.
and Linda, are you matching what's in the water to the bottom of the cloud or the top of it?
I'm matching the top, the yellow, but it's the mirror image. So here,
Okay.
you see the yellow here, I'll darken it so you can see is kind of, I'm calling it a frown just to simplify to say that it's curving
Okay.
like a bell. So I'm finding a place
what you mean.
below it near the other side to create like a bell curve in the
Okay.
water.
Okay.
And you don't have to do everything. You just want to pick a few. In fact, it's better not to do all of them. You don't want it to be too busy. You want to tell the viewer where to look. So like, okay, that's a significant one, the one next to it maybe, and then maybe one over here. It's actually more orange. So now I need to go into my, while I'm working with yellow, I'll do the second layer. So there's a little bit of yellow in here, which is not as curvy. I don't want to get too literal. But I do want to have a few that just say, oh, that's the mirror image. And now I'm going to do this bit of orange. Maybe I'll highlight it a little bit more so it becomes apparent. I got it a little heavy-handed. A little enthusiastic there with my orange. So I'll just take some water and soften it. A little bit of blue mixed in, which is cool. It makes it kind of gray. So now I'm going to find this down in here. So that's curving up. This is going to curve down. It's going to be a little higher than the other. this yellow here. It'll be, so it'll be lower here. You want the lines to be broken so it feels like the water's moving. You don't want it too solid. Then I'm going to put some orange here. This that's right above the horizon, I'm going to reflect it right in here. And sometimes less is more. You can always go back and add. Just, go at your own pace so you can make some decisions. Now I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use just a dark blue. I'm going to go right into my ultramarine, but pasty. I'm sure I'm still recording. Yeah. I'm getting the tip of this dark ultramarine blue, and I might just go into a tiny bit of black, but I mean micronutrient. Where's my black? I was using it this morning. Well, I'll use it from here. Just a tiny bit, enough to deepen the color, but I don't want it to change the color. Get a little wet. Now I'm getting my brush to a nice point. And I'm going to, rest one hand. And I didn't draw it, so I'm just going to very slowly, I know I want it to, I'm going to start at the bottom of let's do a thin line along the bottom, leaving that white there. And then I'm going to create the hills. I want it, I like it, I don't want it to be too solid. I want some transparency. So I wiped my brush and just kind of so this is where I'm going to have to play a little bit. So I'm going to put some more orange in, I think, here. Everybody with me still?
Yeah.
Cool.
What's going on with the sun? I can't see. Have you outlined it in this color?
And my pencil is showing, unfortunately. I mean, it's okay. I would just have, if it's my choice, I would just have yellow around the white. But I'm going to actually add orange. And then I made this, it was just kind of I'm going to make it lighter. You see, there's a tiny bit of the island in front of it, but I want to lighten it a little bit. So I'm using some water. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because it wouldn't be transparent, but the water in front of it might be reflecting back up, and I like it lighter. So sometimes you can do stuff just with reflected light because it looks better in the picture. Now I'm going to go back. I want to add some more orange. I just want to create some of that, when it sets in the water and there's that almost like a little bit of fire around the sun. So every sunset's different and it's a little bit of an exploration. I'm just softening this orange, spreading it out a little bit. And I put more of it in the water here. So I'm using my brush a little bit like a sponge here, wiping, lifting, dragging, kind of just, yeah, it's like painting an abstract painting and just kind of playing with what feels good. It's the fun thing about sunsets.
I realized that I didn't leave white the way you have in front of the sun. Mine is solid, kind of.
In the water or on the sun?
Yeah, in the water.
Okay, so quickly, remember I didn't do that at first. I got distracted. So while it's still wet, you should be able to just get your brush really wet.
So it's not wet, it's very dry.
Okay, so even though it's very dry, get your brush really wet.
Okay,
Drop water right in like a puddle.
okay.
Like mine's white, but let it sit for just a couple seconds. Take a clean paper towel and it should lift up in a few areas.
Okay.
I will do it as a demo on the other side here. I'll do it over here where it's dark so you can see. I'm going to put just a drop of water, letting it sit just for a couple seconds. It won't be perfect, but it'll still be beautiful. So sometimes those accidents actually, so it's lifting. There, I mean, almost completely lifted. I'm noticing that I'm not crazy about the way the blue comes in on either side. I want this to feel like that they're moving across the page. So I'm going to soften some of this.
So, would the idea have been to create that like placeholder for the sun reflection?
Yes. But like I said, I'm going to pause this. I'm pretty sure at this point you can still create it. So now I'm deciding I want my sun to be yellow. So I'm going to make it a little bit yellow. And then I'm going to use more yellow in here as my reflected sunlight. I actually like this better. So sometimes when you have like and I'm gonna make it pop. Now it looks kind of, ooh, you guys are probably thinking, I don't like it better. It looks so heavy-handed. But sometimes things get a little weird before they get better. I'll lift a little bit. And now I'm gonna take my blue. I'm gonna come in the front here. Really should wait because it's starting to turn green. A little bit of green's okay. You don't want too much. But I think the painting's going to be more dramatic now that I'm going a little darker with the blue. And you see my lines are thinner as I go back towards the horizon. They're heavier up here, fatter. It's almost like waves. And you make the fatter ones in the foreground. And I'm going to take a little bit of my warmer blue that's in the sky and put that in the ocean because that would be reflected here as well. Now I'm just kind of finessing. Using my brush as a sponge, lifting where I feel like it's a little heavy-handed. I want to put more orange in before I'm going to tie it all together because it just feels like it needs the orange for the harmony near the blue and the yellow. I've got this orange here. I can reflect it in more of it down here. And I got to bring back some of this orange that I had before that got covered. Looking for the parallel in the water to the sky. Yeah. The other thing you can do, Aurora, which I never, so I'm lifting a little bit. I feel like this got a little too yellowy green. So because I'm going to do this, I'm going to use a little bit of white, which I don't encourage because I like people to think of saving. But you guys are at a place where it's going to use a little bit of white where I feel like it needs some highlights. You can use like white watercolor or gouache.
Where did you put the white? I'm sorry, I left for a sec.
The white where I felt like it needed highlights, primarily in front of the sun. I'm not happy with that. I want this really. I'm kind of simplifying. I feel like I have too many little tiny strokes. So what I'm doing is going back and I feel like my picture got a little busy. Somebody's kitty cat is talking. Hello,
That's Venus.
Venus.
Can I show mine?
Yeah, just a second. Let me get to a stopping point with mine. I'd love to see yours.
I really liked adding that yellow for the sun and the reflection. I feel like my clouds are not developed.
Okay, I don't know how to, let's see, hold yours up. Hopefully my screen's big enough. When I try to pin you, it asks me to take off this spotlight. So I might have to, do you want me to pin it? Oh, that's beautiful.
But my clouds, I don't feel like are.
Hold on, I'm gonna pause the recording for a minute, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. It looks like the water's flowing.
Well, I like that.
A minute to evaluate what I'm gonna do here. So I want to bring some dark areas in under, I think I want, but subtle, soft. I don't want to, I like what's going on here. I want to leave this white and I'm going to leave this softness. But you can see here, one thing that's happening is this blue is darker than the blue that's under here. So it's not letting this feel like a shadow or this here. So I'm gonna have to get it as deep as this. So it starts to feel like a shadow. So let's see, I'm gonna get my paper wet again. And the way I'm gonna create this shadowy color is I'm actually gonna put orange first and then blue on top of it. Instead of going with the gray, I'm gonna let the orange and the blue create a gray tone. So, and I also want to create more, I want to remember that this is my vanishing point. That's what it's called, vanishing point. Disappearing point, I was calling it. So I want these shadows to go back towards my vanishing point. So I'm being careful to not get wet the parts that I do like because I want them to stay. And I'll start with just the top ones. Let's see how this works here. I'm just going to go straight into my orange. Hopefully this will work. It's all a big experiment. So I'm using like a yellowy orange. So Holly, you're going to kind of do some of this too to connect yours, and maybe Devora, or whoever wants to. Then I'm going to go in with my, I think I'm going to use the warmer blue because I don't want it to get, I'm going to work light to dark. So I'm going to use the happier blue. So I'm going to end it. I know I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to have to use my paper towel brush. It's a tool. I got my paper towel while it's still wet. I'm going to soften these edges. I'm going to, I'm wiping my brush. So like, you know, when you work, you go outside at night and you go, wow, what a beautiful sunset. It looks like a watercolor. It puts a lot of pressure on us. Right?
When I look at the sky now, I see watercolors.
Yay.
with the sunset, you know, the later sky.
Mm-hmm. So here's where I'm just kind of playing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of making it up. Because I'm noticing, so this orange is being reflected, it's coming up from under the sun. So I want some orange on the bottom. So this kind of goes back to like, well, maybe we'll do fruit again after this. When you paint fruit, remember when we were doing the core? So this is the core here. Make it feel round. A little heavy-handed. It's going to dry a little lighter. Why is it taking so long? This is when I want to put it on time lapse, so you don't have to sit there and watch every. So here's my vanishing point. I want, when I draw the line out, I want it to come there, draw the line out there. Okay, now I still have this darker than what's happening down here. So I'm going to add more of this blue in here. Ooh, got really heavy-handed.
Which blue are you putting down there?
This similar to what's up here, but I got a little too heavy. So I got to.
So do you think in retrospect we should have kept it lighter up at the top?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you could, but I actually. I'm building from light to dark.
Okay.
So that gives me. I went a little heavy-handed, but I think it gives you more
Depth.
options.
Oh.
So if you're building up, it's more drama to have more color here. So these are going to be brighter. So I'm starting to lose some of my white in here a little bit. I didn't want to do that too early because you know, you save your whites. Otherwise you have to use white paint. So I'm kind of
Wow,
just.
those clouds look really full, like you could put them in your hand.
So I actually want to smooth some of these out in here a little bit. So I'm putting a little bit of that blue. I'm literally like making decisions here as I. It's like watching somebody paint an abstract painting. But it's like I had this, it reminds me of when I went to dance class and I would get frustrated because my teacher, the one teacher I liked the most was the hardest to learn from because he couldn't always articulate what he was doing. He would just do it. But he would say to us, watch and feel, watch and feel. So sometimes you don't necessarily get it right away, but you feel it almost like air guitaring. And then when you go to try to do it, you have this kind of visceral memory. Not happy with the shape of these. So now it looks really busy to me. So I gotta have to do something here to smooth this out a little bit. So I know this is my vanishing point. I'm gonna just start making some lines towards it.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that puts a nice depth in there.
Took away from some of that busyness too. You know what I mean? How it was like, and at this point, I think I might just, so, you know, like you see these pictures of people like art, you kind of at some point, like I know there's no need to rush here. At this point, my painting, I'm not really working wet into wet. I'm doing kind of transparent layers. So like you can do this yourself too on the weekend. At this point, I would just take a break, go have a cup of tea, and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes or turn it upside down, or because I'm not quite certain. I'm working and trying to make decisions, but I'm not quite certain where I'm taking it. Kind of like it's just the last minute finessing that needs to happen. I'm not like here, down in here. I'm squinting. I kind of feel like what I want to do now is I've got a lot of that lighter blue. So I'm going to take some of it here. Said I was going to take a break, but I want to show you guys. Mirror this down in here. And I think I'm going to simplify and just add a lot of that.
Right, that's nice. I like that.
So using bigger brush strokes, and it's less
Yeah.
illustrated, but it's more calming.
Yeah, it's more peaceful. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm trying to calm it down, some of this busyness I got going on.
I love those diagonal vanishing point lines. They're nice in the clouds.
I just read this book called The Vanishing Half, and I kept forgetting the name of it, and I kept calling it The Disappearing Half.
Because that's what I was calling this.
So that was funny you said that.
Okay, this is totally off topic, and I know I'm going to turn this off here in a minute. So I'm going to tell you something. But yeah, and then I might finesse it a tiny bit more later, just when I'm not demoing and trying to like talk. And I like this. I'm liking this gray or blue here for the, so some of it's just an exploration. It just depends on what other colors you've got going on your palette. So this I feel like is a little, I thought a silhouette would be good, but I'm seeing now that I think if I soften it, it's again more calming. I want this to feel calming. I'll lighten it a little bit. Okay, so I turn off the recording. Oh, this is a just terrible distraction here. See, what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of darker blue in the very, very front because that brings it forward. The higher contrast in the foreground. Yeah, something like that. So now there's definitely a difference between this, the way the sky is painted and the water is painted, which I was going for. I wanted it to not, it's, my paper's curling, so it looks like the brush strokes are not horizontal, but they are. It's just that my paper's, there. Okay, now let's stop the recording.
Please send that.